In a remote village in Kenya, there lived a young boy named Wanjiru. He was a child of hardship and dreams, raised in a small thatched house surrounded by endless maize fields and the rustling of animals in the yard. His life had never been easy. He was the product of an affair between his father, Mwangi, and another woman. When his mother passed away when he was just 3, his father brought him into the family. But Wanjiru's life did not get better. It got worse. His stepmother, Amina, despised him. She treated him like an unwanted burden, keeping him out of school because she claimed there wasn't enough money. His 3 older half-brothers were no kinder, often letting him sleep on the cold dirt floor of their shared room, telling him he didn't belong in their family. His clothes were hand-me-downs, old and torn, never meant for someone his size. He spent his days working the fields, planting maize, tending to sweet potatoes, and taking care of the animals, while his stepbrothers attended school. Though his stepmother made it clear he was not wanted, Wanjiru had one solace: Saturdays. Every Saturday, Amina and her sons would leave the house to go to the market in the village to sell their produce, leaving Wanjiru alone with his father. Those were the days Mwangi would teach him, secretly, to read and write. Wanjiru treasured these lessons, and his father's words echoed in his mind. "Dream big, my son. You can be anything you want to be." But as Wanjiru worked the farm and did the chores, his father's encouragement felt like a dream, too distant to ever come true. His stepmother's sons, the ones who had always belittled him, went off to university. Wanjiru, however, remained in the fields. His father's guilt over his affair weighed heavily on him, and he said nothing when Amina mistreated Wanjiru. But Wanjiru never stopped dreaming. As the years passed, Wanjiru, now 18, had worked tirelessly to support his brother's education. He had sold goods at the market, and every coin he made, he would send toward their tuition. But none of them ever thanked him. One fateful day, when his father had gone away on business, Wanjiru came home to a heart-wrenching sight. His stepmother, furious at his presence, had thrown his clothes outside in the dirt and ordered him to leave. She had no patience left for the boy she had always despised. With nothing more than a few belongings in a sack, Wanjiru was chased out of the house. Heartbroken but determined, he set off on his own, not knowing where he would go next. As he wandered toward the village outskirts, a kind stranger, a woman named Sarah, saw him and offered him a ride into Nairobi. Wanjiru, grateful for the kindness, accepted. Sarah, a wealthy businesswoman who lived in the city, took him in and offered him a job as a houseboy. He was to cook and clean for her, and in return she gave him a roof over his head and food to eat. 2 years passed, and Wanjiru grew into a skilled cook. He poured all his energy into learning new recipes and making his meals taste just right. One day, a visitor from the United States came to stay at Sarah's house. Her name was Susan, and she had been a friend of Sarah's for many years. When Susan tasted Wanjiru's cooking, she was immediately impressed. The flavors, the passion, the care he put into each dish, it was evident that Wanjiru had a gift. Curious about his story, Susan asked Wanjiru how he had become such a talented cook. Wanjiru shared his past, how he had grown up in a village where he was mistreated by his stepmother, worked tirelessly on the farm to support his brother's education, and dreamed of a better life. Susan listened intently, her heart moved by his determination and resilience. And then she asked him something that changed his life forever. "Would you like to come to America with me? I can offer you a job as my housekeeper. You can cook for me, and I'll take care of the rest." Wanjiru could hardly believe his ears. America? He had always dreamed of going there, imagining the opportunities and freedom that awaited. His heart raced with excitement, and before he knew it, he had agreed. It felt like the impossible was finally becoming possible. A year later, all his paperwork was ready, and Wanjiru was about to leave Kenya for the land he had always dreamed of. Before he left, he returned to his village to see his father one last time. He had saved up a little money from his job, and he wanted to give it to his father as a gesture of gratitude. When he arrived, his stepmother and brothers were there. They had just returned from their university studies, but none of them had jobs. They were now back working on the farm with nothing to show for their education. They laughed at Wanjiru when they saw the money in his hand. "Look at you," they mocked. "You still think you're special. You'll never amount to anything." Wanjiru smiled quietly, knowing that the true measure of success is not in the wealth or status one holds, but in the strength of the spirit. "I'm not doing this for you," he said. "I'm doing this for myself." With that, he turned and walked away from the village he once called home, leaving behind the family that had always treated him as less. As the plane took off and he left Kenya behind, Wanjiru knew that he was on his way to a new chapter of his life, a life filled with possibilities, opportunities, and the realization of dreams. He had become the man his father always believed he could be, and as he set foot on American soil, he knew that this was just the beginning of a journey that would forever change his family's legacy. And so, the boy who was once rejected and mistreated became the man who would redefine his destiny. Wanjiru had come a long way since the day he left Kenya, escaping the suffocating conditions of his childhood home. Now 22 years old, he had found a new life in the United States, working as a housekeeper for a kind woman who had taken him in all those years ago. Over time, he had built a deep relationship with her family, but the greatest surprise was yet to come. Susan's daughter, who had just returned from college, met Wanjiru, and it was love at first sight for both of them. Her name was Nicole. She was kind, intelligent, and compassionate, everything Wanjiru had longed for in a partner. But Wanjiru hesitated. He didn't feel worthy of her. How could a man like him, who had come from nothing, ever hope to give her the life she deserved? Nicole, however, wouldn't give up. She was determined to show him that he was worthy of love, of her love. "Let me ask my mother to help you return to school," she told him one day, her eyes filled with hope. But when her mother learned of their budding relationship, she was furious. She couldn't bear the thought of her daughter being with someone she considered beneath them. She threatened to send Wanjiru back to Africa if he didn't stay away from her daughter. Wanjiru, afraid of losing his job and the life he had built, reluctantly agreed. But he didn't stop loving Nicole. On his days off, the two would meet secretly for a year, their bond growing stronger each day. Eventually, Nicole graduated college and began working as a lawyer. She hadn't forgotten about Wanjiru. Secretly, she helped him complete his high school diploma and apply for college, securing a scholarship for him to study medicine. When her mother found out, she was livid, but there was little she could do. Over time, she saw how hard Wanjiru had worked, how dedicated he was to his studies, and how deeply he loved her daughter. Though she was still opposed to the relationship, she grudgingly allowed him to stay with them during his breaks from school. However, she made it clear that she would never approve of them being together. She wanted her daughter to marry someone from a wealthy family, someone of her own kind. Undeterred, Wanjiru graduated medical school with first-class honors, a testament to his hard work and resilience. Soon after, he began working as a top surgeon at a renowned hospital. It was during this time that he met a colleague who introduced him to Christianity. Wanjiru began attending church and he invited his girlfriend along. She too found faith in Jesus Christ, and together they began to grow spiritually. One day, Nicole decided it was time to be honest with her mother. She confessed that she and Wanjiru had been seeing each other for all these years and wanted to get married. After much persuasion, her mother finally agreed. The wedding was a beautiful celebration of love, faith, and perseverance. Wanjiru, now a successful surgeon, soon had a son with his wife. They decided to visit Wanjiru's family in Kenya, bringing his wife and mother-in-law with them. When they arrived, Wanjiru was shocked by how much worse life had become for his family. His stepmother was gravely ill, and the money Wanjiru had been sending to his father had been used up for her medical bills. His brothers, now married with children of their own, were still working on the same farm, struggling to make ends meet. When his stepmother saw him and realized that he had been the one helping her with the medical expenses, she was overcome with shame. With tears in her eyes, she begged for his forgiveness. Wanjiru, who had forgiven her long ago, shared his testimony with her, explaining how he had come to know Christ and how Christ had forgiven him. His stepmother, deeply moved, asked Wanjiru to pray for her. She gave her life to Jesus that day, accepting the forgiveness that had been so freely offered to her son. Sadly, a week later, his stepmother passed away, but Wanjiru was able to pay for her funeral expenses, something he had never imagined he would do. After the funeral, Wanjiru filed for his father to come to America. His father, in turn, filed for his 3 sons and their families. Over the next few years, Wanjiru's brothers and their families joined him in the United States. With their university degrees and the opportunities Wanjiru had opened for them, they found good jobs and began building a better life for their families. The story came full circle one Sunday afternoon as Wanjiru and his wife hosted a family barbecue in their backyard after church. Wanjiru's brothers, now successful and thriving, sat together, laughing, sharing stories, and expressing their gratitude to Wanjiru. They thanked him not only for changing their lives financially, but also for changing their hearts spiritually. Through his example of love, forgiveness, and faith, they had all learned the true value of family, grace, and redemption. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the gathering, Wanjiru reflected on the journey he had taken, from the boy who was kicked out of his home to the man who had helped lift his family from poverty. It hadn't been easy, but he had followed his father's advice to dream big, to persevere, and to trust in God's plan. Now, sitting in his backyard with his family, he knew that no dream was ever too big and no life too broken to be restored. Moral of the story: no matter where you come from, no matter how difficult life may seem, it's never too late to change your story. With faith, perseverance, and love, you can rise above your circumstances and transform not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Always believe in the power of grace, and remember that forgiveness and love have the power to heal even the deepest wounds. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Remember, love is free.